Dark Isekai just hits different. No chosen heroes, no wholesome power fantasy, just morally questionable protagonists, world-ending abilities, and straight villain energy. If you enjoy watching main characters slowly become the final boss, this list is about to go absolutely crazy. Number 10, we have The Executioner and Her Way of Life. And the first episode alone proves this series is not playing nice. The setup feels familiar. A Japanese high school boy gets summoned to another world and believes he's about to become the legendary hero. But then the real protagonist appears. Menu, a calm, polite priestess whose secret job is eliminating people summoned from Japan before their powers destroy the world. And when I say eliminate, I mean cold, calculated execution. The show's atmosphere feels eerie in a way most isekai never attempt. Quiet churches, candlelit halls, peaceful towns. Yet there's always this suffocating tension that something horrible happened in the past involving summoned people called Lost Ones. The soundtrack leans soft and almost sacred, which makes the violence hit even harder when it happens. Number 9, we have Dead Mount Death Play, and this show wastes absolutely zero time turning the genre upside down. Instead of a hero being transported to another world, the legendary necromancer known as the Corpse God gets killed during a massive fantasy battle and suddenly wakes up in the body of a dead teenager in Shinjuku. Yeah, things get weird immediately. Now imagine ancient necromancy magic colliding with modern crime syndicates, assassins, street gangs, and supernatural conspiracies hiding in the city. The visual vibe is actually fantastic too. Neon Tokyo lights reflecting off dark alleyways while skeleton magic circles glow on the pavement. It creates this really cool mix of urban crime thriller and dark fantasy horror. Number 8, we have Overlord, and honestly this show helped define the dark isekai boom. The story follows Momonga, a gamer who gets trapped inside his favorite MMO as his character, the skeletal overlord Ain's Owl Gown. Now here's where things get spicy. Instead of searching for a way home or trying to be a hero, Ain's basically says, "Alright, guess I'm conquering the world now." The world reacts to him like a walking natural disaster. Entire kingdoms panic when his name is mentioned. Armies crumble before even seeing him, and his NPC followers worship him like an absolute god. What makes the show even more entertaining is Ain's himself. Internally, he's still just a gamer trying not to mess up, but outwardly he's forced to act like the most terrifying mastermind alive. Massive magic battles, political manipulation, and some genuinely brutal moments make this series insanely fun to watch. If you want a main character who's basically the final boss of the entire world, this is mandatory viewing. Number 7, we have Apocalypse Bringer Minogra, World Conquest. Starts with the civilization of ruin, and the premise alone screams villain campaign mode. The protagonist dies and reincarnates into the world of his favorite strategy game, but not as a hero. Nope. He becomes the ruler of Minogra, an evil civilization known for corruption, monsters, and spreading ruin across the world map. And instead of trying to become good, he fully commits to it. The story plays out almost like watching someone dominate a strategy game, expanding territory, recruiting monstrous generals, and slowly building a terrifying empire from the shadows. Number 6, we have A Wild Last Boss Appeared, and the premise is peak power fantasy chaos. The protagonist suddenly finds himself in the body of Lufus Mafal, the legendary black-winged tyrant who once tried to conquer the entire world, and the reputation alone is terrifying. Every kingdom remembers her. Former generals are scattered across the world like sleeping weapons, and every time she appears, people assume the apocalypse just clocked in for work. The anime really leans into that overwhelming presence too. Massive wings cutting across the sky, ridiculously powerful magic attacks, and enemies reacting like they're staring at a living myth. Number 5, we have Hellsing Ultimate, and the main character Alucard might be one of the most terrifying anti-heroes in anime history. This show is pure gothic violence done right. We're talking vampires, secret military organizations, undead armies, and battles that look like the gates of hell just opened. Every time Alucard enters a fight, the atmosphere changes instantly. The animation goes crazy during combat too. Bullets tearing through monsters, shadows twisting into demonic shapes, and blood effects that honestly look like something straight out of a horror movie. Number 4, we have Mao-sama, Retry, and this show blends dark fantasy with surprisingly funny moments. The protagonist logs into his online game and suddenly wakes up inside the world as his character, a literal demon king feared across the land. And immediately people assume he's planning world domination. The fun part is watching how everyone reacts to him. Villagers tremble, soldiers panic, powerful enemies prepare for war. Meanwhile, he's just trying to figure out how the world works. Despite the comedic moments, there's still that underlying dark tone. The world is filled with corruption, suffering, and political manipulation. Watching a so-called demon lord slowly build influence and power in that environment is surprisingly addictive. If you like villain protagonists with a relaxed attitude toward absolute power, this one is worth checking out. Number 3, we have Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody, and the main character begins the story as a programmer who suddenly wakes up inside the fantasy RPG he was developing. At first, it feels like a chill adventure anime, traveling between towns, meeting new companions, exploring the world. But here's the twist. The protagonist is ridiculously overpowered right from the start. Entire armies are basically irrelevant to him. Monsters that terrorize kingdoms get wiped out in seconds. And the more you watch, the more you realize he could probably dominate the entire world if he wanted to. The show focuses heavily on exploration too. Colorful fantasy cities, giant ruins, and wide landscapes that make the world feel huge. If you enjoy laid-back isekai with hidden god-tier power, this anime delivers. Number 2, we have Saga of Tanya the Evil, and Tanya might be the most ruthless protagonist in the entire isekai genre. A cold, calculating salaryman dies and gets reincarnated as a little girl in a magical version of World War I, and she immediately becomes a military prodigy. Tanya treats war like a business strategy. She manipulates the chain of command, destroys enemy forces with terrifying efficiency, and uses magical artillery like she's speedrunning a battlefield. The aerial combat scenes are insane too. Soldiers flying through the sky with explosive magic rifles while orchestral music blasts in the background. But the real tension comes from Tanya's conflict with a godlike being that reincarnated her. Number 1, we have the dark history of the reincarnated villainess, and the concept alone is wild. The protagonist reincarnates into her own dark fantasy novel as the villainess destined to cause absolute chaos. And here's the terrifying part. She remembers exactly how terrible the story becomes. Assassinations, betrayals, political conspiracies, entire kingdoms collapsing because of decisions she once wrote for fun. The aesthetic leans heavily into gothic fantasy too. Candlelit castles, ominous forests, and dramatic character designs that feel straight out of a dark fairy tale. Watching her try to survive inside the nightmare she created adds a really cool psychological layer. If you enjoy villainous stories mixed with dark fantasy tension, this one is seriously unique. Alright anime fans, your turn. Which dark isekai villain deserves the real number 1 spot? And which anime did I miss? Drop your picks in the comments, I'm ready for the chaos. Let's argue.